estáis? ¿Cómo estáis? ¿Cómo estáis? Estamos aquí un poco de pasada, antes de comenzar la tercera temporada, con dos personas muy, muy especiales que tengo el gusto de tener aquí en el Diner, que os las voy a presentar. Así que nada, como ya sabéis que estamos muy internationally en este podcast, pues voy a pasar al inglés. Así que, pues nada, os deseo que disfrutéis muchísimo de Brandon y de Vincent, que les admiro un montón, son dos personas maravillosas. So, here I am. How are you doing? This is your first time in Spain?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what things have you learned? We were talking about this before.
Well,
Specific words that we can like
words.
share here, you know?
I'd love to say thank you, gracias a lot.
Okay.
Because I am always bumping into someone. And so that is my word of the trip is definitely gracias because I have had to say it every day.
I say pardon because I wasn't bumping into people, so
Yeah.
pardon. Manzanas, apples.
Oh, you like manzanas?
I don't, but I learned the word.
But the word is beautiful.
The word is beautiful.
Yes.
Manzanas, apples. You know, manzanas is
Yes.
better. Yeah.
Yeah, I have this thing with my father that he doesn't really speak English. So once we were in London and he kept on stepping on people, and instead of saying sorry, he kept saying like, thank you.
me this entire time.
Thank you.
Gracias. And they're like, no, pardon.
Pardon.
Yes, pardon. It's like you gotta be, thankful for anything in life, you know?
Yes, gratitude. We love it.
So, for those of you that may not know Brandon and Vincent, what would you say about yourselves if you had to introduce? Because I don't really like introducing myself. It's hard for me to do it. How would you introduce
Oh my God, I
yourselves?
love to do it.
You do? Okay.
Uh-oh.
I'm an
You can
artist.
go first.
I'm an artist, a musician, a singer, and a songwriter. Yeah, and I make music.
Beautiful music. Very uplifting music.
Thank you.
You guys have to stream those songs, buy them, do everything, go to the concerts, because I really love your music. I've been like, we met in LA like a few months ago, and since the first time that I listened to one of your songs, I cannot stop like listening to them.
Okay, thank you. Gracias.
Gracias.
Yeah. I am
She's gonna
bilingual.
move here.
Yes. I mean, I don't know why, but a lot of American people are moving to Spain. What's going on?
You
Have
know
you
what's
seen
going
the
on,
state of the world?
America.
I think
It's
you know
going
what's going on.
a little crazy. I
Let's
think.
drink a little bit on this. Let's drink a little bit on this.
It's just a better, I mean, we've been saying the entire trip, it's a much easier way of life. Everyone's kind of happy and
I think the values and the priorities are different.
yeah,
Like,
very
it's
much so.
America's like work, and here it feels like live your life.
Also, the culture is very comforting. Like you take care of your people and everyone is kind to each other. They're always thinking about someone else before something happens, which I've noticed a lot. And that's been very far and few in between in America as of late. And so I think people want a change of scenery and a change of life. And so why not go somewhere else where it feels great?
Yeah. Shall I introduce myself? Because
I
this
think
girl
so.
just keeps talking. I'm just
I
kidding.
think so.
This is my best friend. This is my best friend.
This is your
drag her a
first
little
interview
bit.
together.
Yes.
I hope it's the first of many others, but maybe it's the last.
we
Who
don't hope
knows?
that, girl.
She'll be in prison and then I'll be interviewing her. So yeah, it will be.
Oh, she's nasty. I'm also an artist. I'm a TV writer, an actor, performer, speaker, and I talk about sex a lot. So I have a Substack, a podcast, and I really am about advocating for sexual wellness. That's my big priority. I think that if you can learn how to ask for what you want when you're your most vulnerable, which is when you're naked in a bedroom, you can rule the world. You know, I always say from the dark room to the boardroom.
Love it. Usually people, for example, it happens to me that I hate being labeled as an activist, but also, like, in a way, you're doing activism with the things that you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, how do you feel about this label? I don't like it, but
I embraced it at first because in 2020, when I started talking about, 2020, everyone remembers what happened.
Yes.
I got labeled an activist because I was talking about race and intersectionality. But then I think that definition just kind of got muddied and was like, well, who's an activist? Who are you watching? What are they doing? And I feel a lot of pressure with that term. And so I think I prefer advocate and I prefer an artist, because artists are activists. But I think that I want to reserve activists for those who are definitely organizing, who are really inside of the politics, who can really give you the resources, and allow myself to just be, as I think Viola Davis said this, artivist, which I much prefer.
Yeah, that's great. Because I think it's a great way to go. You make art to make people reflect on their lives, to get to know themselves better.
Yes.
And this is, I think both of you do the same thing on this, right?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of that, because when I first started, I was given a label and I rallied against it. I was very much like, hi, I'm not here to raise your kids. You do what you want to do with your life. I'm here to make music that affects me and hopefully inspires you. And then I realized that is my job. And if you have ever heard of or listened to Nina Simone, the artist's job is to influence the world to do better and to be better and to strive for more. And so over the years, I think I've kind of taken it on, but I also understand what activism really looks like and what my job is. And it is a form of activism, but it is not standing at the front lines of every rally and everything. I can't be there all the time. And so I understand that my voice and my art is lending to that, and I want to be as strong and as powerful in that space as I can be. And so Artivist is a perfect way of putting it, because it's so genuine. It's like I have my art and I have my activism, and it's all one, and I hope that it does the job that it's supposed to do when I put it out into the world, and that's to change and to move the needle forward.
I think that sometimes we get pushed into doing a lot of activism, a lot of posting about, we really need to hear your perspective on everything. And it's like, it gets a little bit boring and a little bit tiring to be always explaining ourselves to other people,
I think it's also, I have taken a step back in a way, because I think I need time to process too. And so the idea that you always have to be ready to speak for something, it's like, no, we're all humans, and some of us need time to process. And so there are certain things that I can talk about immediately, and other things that I want to take my time to see where it lands, what I feel about it, learn, and then I can speak if I choose. And I think that's important, that we allow people in this age of social media. It's like, talk now. It's like, everyone needs to shut up, actually. Take your time, feel how you feel, and then speak. And instead of just I don't know.
It's giving yourself time to process.
Yes.
I think we live in a day and age where everything it happens, I tell you how I feel. When in actuality, your emotions are heightened, everything is happening all at once, and you're like, I'm just gonna speak because I feel as though the void needs my voice. And it's like, I grew up with very old parents, and so it was very much, hi, relax, take your time, come find me when you're ready to talk. Because I realized no one needs to hear my opinion on everything. I can do so much more actively than putting something on the internet, means tweeting something or putting something on my Instagram. I could go to the site, I could donate, I could actually share the link. You don't always have to tell people what you think all the time. I think that's the world we live in today, where it's like, we need your opinion because your opinion is fact. And that's not the truth. Opinion is opinion, fact is fact. And you can look at both and see where you want to lie in between or on either. And so you make the choice. But I think giving yourself a time to process and then maturely walking into the internet, which is a psycho sentence, and saying, I'm going to say this, I've thought about this, and this is how I feel, and this is what I think, and this is what I believe. And so I think giving yourself time to process is very much where it should be.
I think the internet is also tricky because it becomes about likes and views. I noticed, I did a video, I did a conversation with this black traveler blogger, Glow Antonimo, and we said, I don't like when white people call me cis. And that video ended up doing extraordinarily well because there was so much controversy around that. And so I made another video that was like, hey, what did you hear? What did we say? Just trying to break it down. More views because of the controversy in the comments. And that's when my brain went, this is actually not okay. We're getting more success because we're saying things that are buzzy and controversial, as opposed to, what are you actually saying? What are you actually doing here? And so I think there's got to be a reckoning in how we handle activism, especially in social media.
Yeah, I think we have to find a way to make this happen, because it also happens with us on the podcast, because we have, for example, many trans people, especially for women. They get a lot of bad comments, which makes the content go higher.
Yes.
And then people are just saying the most nasty things.
Yes. And then people make their videos off of their trauma, and it's like, that's actually not doing anything.
No, we're feeding a monster that we should be stopping it.
Yes.
So sometimes we have to block comments and stuff. And then I would like to do an episode about this, about hate in general, because how do we deal with hate, especially when we were growing up? I don't know how this was for you, but when we were growing up, it was very difficult, at least for me, that I went through a phase of very hard bullying and all of that, to then present ourselves in the world and talk in front of cameras and being in front of people, having opinions and then discussing things. So how did you guys get to the stage where you are right now?
I had a very different upbringing than most, which is I'm very, very thankful for. I had two parents who were religious, but not so much so where they were trying to guide my life to the religion part of it. I grew up in a household that was very accepting. And so we never had a conversation about sex or sexuality, but it was always in the room. And so by the time I figured out who I was and what I wanted to be and who I wanted to be in the world, I presented it to my parents as, hi, this is who I am. I've never heard you have this conversation with my siblings, so you're not going to have it with me. Also, I'm a triple Aries, and my dad was a triple Aries. And like,
there you go.
No one was going to win this argument because it wasn't an argument. It was just, this is fact, and this is what it is. I think where I grew to really have to hide myself and learn to find myself again was in the outside world. I went to Catholic school from kindergarten to 12th grade. I went to an all-boys Catholic school in high school. And so you really meet people in that kind of space that really are gonna like rub against you and try to like bring you down. And so I think for me, it was having such an amazing home base really turned me into a person who was confident. So there wasn't really much that could get across my skin. And you both know me very well. I have a very sharp mouth. And so I was pretty good at handling myself, but it was tough. I mean, it's always going to be tough for a queer child growing up in a world that is not accepting of us from the get-go. But I think my family was a very, very great help in that, especially my mother was. She is an amazing teacher of life, and she has taught me so much about what it feels and looks like to be a fully seen and realized human being. And I'm not there yet. I think I'm always going to be on the road there. Of
course.
But I think it's been such a beautiful thing for me to have her in my corner to just be like, hi, I raised you. It's a very famous quote from Maya Angelou. She goes, I raised you. Don't let anyone else raise you. You know what's right, so just do right. You know?
How was that for you, Brendan?
Very different. I was estranged from my mother for 15 years. So I have a very different experience. I grew up in a Caribbean household. And so there wasn't ever any talk about homosexuality, but I did understand that it was a sin, quote unquote. And so I just kind of lived with that and was in the closet for a while, and then I went to boarding high school in Rome, Georgia. So that also didn't help, being Black, being queer. So it was a lot of denial. And then I came out in college, but what really changed everything was I did a study abroad program in Amsterdam. And so we spent like 3 months, like 24 of us, and it was also Pride. And it was the first time that I had seen, I'll never forget, I was in the subway station or the train station, and there was a massive poster of two men kissing, and it wasn't defaced at all. It was just like perfectly intact. And I remember being in shock and in awe of that, because in New York, that would have been fag all over it. And it was the first time that I was able to see myself and my sexuality and my race and the intersectionalities of it as just beautiful. I didn't feel celebrated, not just tolerated, but celebrated. And so I think when I came back, I had that. And so I was always trying to fight to get back to what that feeling was. And I did that through community. You know, when my mother and I stopped talking, I really had to find new family. And so chosen family is really my blood family. And I think it's when I met the friends that I had and I loved them and they were queer, it was like, well, if they're queer and I love them, then why can't I love who I am if I'm queer? And so it was just a relearning of that. And I'm here and I love it and I'm proud, but it was definitely a journey for sure.
It's a journey. I mean, I was growing up in a Catholic school as well, and they were not actually saying what you are is a sin, but you kind of get the idea, you know, the feeling of like something's wrong with you, you know. So growing up for me was very difficult. Still, it is sometimes, like to explore my sexuality in a very like wide open and fun way without feeling like guilty for it, you know. So that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of therapy,
a lot of failure,
and a lot of friends,
a lot of friends, trial and error, all of it.
When you were growing up, you were looking up to people that you really liked specifically. Who were your like idols when you were growing up?
Oprah, Maya Angelou, Beyonce, Destiny's Child, the ladies, for sure.
Yeah, for me, it was the women in my life.
Yeah.
My mother,
grandmother.
my tutors at school. It's so funny that you bring that up, the thing in the air at Catholic schools, because there was a queer group at our school which would not be given a club. We just made it. And we had a teacher who was the sweetest woman, Miss Helen, and we would, like, the kids in the group would call it the silence because you would never talk about it, but it was there. And the teachers would see us and they would never really full on address it, but it was in the room. And so this beautiful woman, Miss Helen Durando, was incredible with us. Every lunch break, every break between classes, we were in her room, just congregating and having community and building something that made us strong on the outside. So it was the women in my life, my grandmother, my aunt, all of my aunts. I have 4 sisters. My mother, just the women have really poured into me. My father was an amazing teacher as well, but the women in my life have really built me into the character that I am today, which is a psychopath, but a good one.
Beware.
Yes.
So, and also, I think it's very specific in your case that what would be the mix or the influence that you had when you were growing up as being Black, and then on top of that being queer, or how did that work for you?
I reckoned with them separately. I think that I reckoned with my Blackness first. That seemed to be the thing that people really had an issue with first. And then as my femininity started to come out, then that started to be a thing. And I think I managed them parallel and not together. And so in my adulthood, it was like, well, how do they cross over? But it was always trying to watch how I talk. Like I used to say Manhattan because I'm from New York. My mother would be like, Manhattan, like how do you pronounce your things, which people say sounding white.
Wow.
But you know, whatever. And then also your queerness, your masculinity, and how do you like lower your, I had the highest pitched voice and would constantly try to talk like this. And, you know, when I pick up the phone, they'd be like, they would think of my mom or my grandmother, and that would always cut a little deeply. Now I'm like, I call it a soft voice, and I love a soft voice. When I hear like a queer pronounced voice, I love it. But as a kid, it was tragic for me. It was really
It's very interesting to talk about voice when you're doing a podcast, and for me it was like kind of a thing as well, like when I started this, because then you have to listen to yourself, and then it's like you're like criticizing and saying like, oh, that's too gay, that's too queer, that's too feminine, that's too that. And then at some point it's like you start embracing it, right? Like for you that you have a podcast, and also for you as a singer, how is that?
It's so funny that you bring up you being younger and the talking white aspect of things. When I was younger, I was in a documentary called The Prep School Negro, and it was filmed with a bunch of friends who went to Quaker schools and who went to Catholic schools. And it was just so interesting because I am from Northern Philadelphia, 29th and Diamond, which is predominantly Black. But on the weekends, I was a part of a choir, and I had friends who were in this choir who were all white, and I would always be around them. And in my head, when you're a kid, you're not thinking of color. You're thinking, these are my friends, and these are how my friends here talk. So you learn to code switch very quickly. And so you don't even realize you're doing it at times, so you would come back home still speaking as if you were there, and realizing that for me was kind of, I spiraled a little bit because my brothers and my sister would always make fun of me for the way that I talked because I could switch it up. And then my mother stepped in and she was like, you're not speaking white, because when you say that, that denotes that intelligence only belongs to whiteness. Right. And that's incorrect. You're speaking like a human being. Now, the way you choose to speak around your siblings and the way you choose to speak around people in your professional life is a very different thing. You just have to be comfortable with both. And being okay with both means letting every bit of it slip in so that it comes out in a certain way that feels authentic to you. So for me, it's just so funny that that's happened in so many of our lives where it's just been a crossing. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. No, but sorry, I've lost track of my words.
You're fine. I think it's like the balancing of the worlds, the private school world, the home world.
And also, I think that if you're going through being queer in the world, in a way, it's like a character that you play to survive.
The safety of it.
So it's nice, you know, you can play like different characters like we do on social media, in life, between friends, with family. And then you can find, which I thought it was very beautiful for her to say, like this mix of things that made you who you are right now.
It's the integration. It's like ultimately you hope you find the integration of it, that it can all come together and feel like you, as opposed to you feeling like I'm putting on different masks. That's, I think, I think that's the goal of living and evolving, is to eventually drop the mask and just be who you are.
And also for you, Vincent, your music is influenced a lot by your roots. I was thinking about, I don't know, I came up to me like Whitney Houston, of course, because she was growing up and she had a lot of like with church and stuff.
Yeah.
And you have that kind of same vibe to your music. Is that something that you think about on purpose, or?
It's so funny because when I first started music, I was labeled as the black boy who sings white. There was an article that came out about it after the TV show that I was on. And I remember looking at Whitney Houston's documentary, and they did the same thing to her.
They did this.
They booed her at not the BET Awards, I believe,
Train.
the Soul Train Awards. They booed her on stage because she was making pop music. Whitney Houston was one of the biggest inspirations for me because she spoke so eloquently and sang so beautifully and was still so innately black. And I was like, that is incredible. But I grew up listening to Stevie Wonder. I grew up listening to Earth, Wind & Fire, Celine Dion. I grew up listening to Madonna and Bjork. So I was always influenced by, my father was a musician, so I was listening to different things at all times. Coming into the world and making the things that I make, I never thought of anyone else and what they thought of it. And I think that's the most important thing for any musician or any artist. Your art is not based on opinion because it'll ruin it. And I think the first song I ever put out was a bit R&B-ish because someone was like, you should be an R&B singer. And I was like, babe, I'm not giving you Casey and JoJo. Can I sing it? Yes, I sing it down. But it's not authentic to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel natural for me to go and write a pop song because that's how my mind works. And so for me, I realized I like making pop music. There is nothing wrong with making pop music.
No.
If you don't like my pop music, don't listen.
Yeah,
There's so much more, you know? And I would fight with this and fight with this and fight with this until I found a fan base that was like, hey, we love it. And we'll show up at every show and we'll sell it out. And you never have to worry about that again. But I think that comes from realizing if I want to do this, it has to be mine. It can't be influenced by anything else or any other outside opinion. So I have to go away, make my thing, give it to the world, and release it. And that just has to be how it is.
Because I think right now, nowadays, we're very influenced by so many opinions about many people, even ourselves. I don't know if that happens to you as well. Like, we censor ourselves into doing so many things because it's like, oh, is this going to be queer? Is this going to be right for queer people? Is this going to be building up something beautiful for queer people? We cannot be like the bad guys. We cannot say like bad things. We always have to behave, especially if you're like in this activist or artivist like kind of way, right?
I try to free myself. There's a quote by Terrence that I learned from Maya Angelou. It's on my body. Here. I am a human being. There's nothing human can be alien to me. And I think what I've learned is that being flawed is actually my superpower. Like showing my flaws and being like, I actually don't know how to do that, or I'm learning about this thing, which is why I so openly talk about sex and like my hangups with it, what I'm learning, because I can't play perfect. Perfect is a prison. But I do, when I first started, I guess, being more visible, there was a lot of that fear. Like, I have to represent the community, I have to represent black folks and queer folks. And then people are telling you, you're not black, and I have a white husband. And so like my blackness gets qualified and
like
quantified.
this list of rules that you have to check. That it's like,
you grow tired.
You get tired.
But like straight people don't have to go through this, you know,
No.
especially if they're white.
Exactly. But then you realize that if you just are yourself, there is a community. I mean, TikTok shows you there's a community to watch you tap your fingers on the fucking desk.
For hours.
I fucking love that.
So like there is your community, and so I think it's just build your thing and your people, like build it and they will come, essentially.
It's very much build your own thing, and the people, they will come to you, but it's also, you have to stop caring. You can care, but you have to stop caring, if that makes sense. When I first started, I was driving myself up the wall because I started not on television, then I got on television, and then that gave me a broader audience, and I was like, oh my God, there's so many opinions. And I'm reading all of them. And my mom was like, turn your fucking phone off.
Yes.
This is not real life. Like, this is not real. You don't know them, and you'll never meet them.
Yes.
Opinion is fine. What you take on with you is really important for you. So be aware of what you're reading and what you're holding on to. It's not the end of the world if someone says something awful to you. It's not, because that's not real. That's not fact.
And it's not maybe talking about you, it's talking about themselves.
Yeah, that's an insecurity.
I had somebody who was trolling me, and I found out that they worked on a show on the same network that I was on, and they were an assistant. and I was a story editor, which means that like if I were a dick, I could have fucked them up. But instead, I decided to have a Zoom with them and like just find out like what was going on. And he said to me, I'm actually not mad at you. I was mad at the idea of you, and I didn't have anywhere else to put it, so I came at you. And that changed everything. I was like, oh, people aren't seeing you as real. No. So they're saying whatever they love or hate. They're saying it, but they don't see you as real. And so the only opinions that I take to heart are my friends. Like the people that I trust who have cultivated my community. If Vincent says, baby, that's not it, it's not it. And I believe that. But like, that's because that's my best friend.
Yes.
But the strangers on the street, I can't actually process all that, you know? You can, it'll fuck you up every time.
It'll fuck you up because then you get like very confused.
Yes.
So many projections of so many people at the same time.
Yes.
Get you very confused, and then you have to like go to your room and get your diary or something, because I'm trying to like write a little bit more. It's hard to do that. Journaling is like everything. We really tell people like this is something you should be doing every day. Like give yourself like even 5 minutes, even 10 minutes to journal a little bit, so that you get your like right mind.
So you know what you think.
Yes, you know what you think, because we have so many. Even when we wake up, you take your phone and then you start getting messages, and then it's like, do I really want to do this or not?
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Journaling is one option, but do you do some other stuff?
I wake up 2 hours before I need to be anywhere, before I need to leave. And so those 2 hours, the first hour is...
Today, did you wake up 2 hours before?
I'm on vacation. I'm on vacation. Okay?
Not today, man. Not today.
Not today, girl. But usually at home, yes, I wake up 2 hours before I have to be anywhere. And that first hour is really about journaling, listening to music, and just giving myself time to actually wake up. Because I find that if I just get up and I go, like you're just bombarded. There's been no time to say, well, how do I feel and what do I need? That's the most important question I think people need to ask themselves is, what do you need? And then give it to yourself. Do I need to, do I need water? Do I need coffee? Do I need to listen to music? Do I need to dance? Like, what do you need so you can give it to yourself? My mentor, Ellen Barber, said to me, if you were your own parent, what advice would you give to yourself? And so that's how I live my life. It's like, I'm raising me now, so like, how can I take care of myself if little Brandon is my child? And so that's what for those first hour and a half is about, is journaling, dancing, listening, eating well, so that I can then actually show up for whatever the work is.
I kind of dip into nostalgia because my mind is constantly going, which is very annoying. But when I wake up in the morning, I'm...
Triple areas.
Yeah, she's thinking at all times. Yeah. It is quite the adventure.
That brain.
I wake up in the morning and my mind is going, and I do this thing. It's so crazy. I don't know if anyone has ever watched Xena Warrior Princess.
Of course.
It is some of the best cinema on television. I turn it on because it reminds me of childhood when in the mornings, Saturday mornings, I'm just sitting in front of a television. My mind is calm. I'm watching this thing that has nothing to do with the world. Yeah. It has no outside information, and I'm just like, cool. You have time. Relax. Start the day. Because if I don't do that, I'm up. Like I'm up, and I'm just going, and I'm talking, and I'm bothering people, and I don't want to do that because I know my brain can get the best of me sometimes. And so I think, for me, it's calming myself, like the same way you listen to music in the morning. Yeah. Because I make music, I don't want to hear it.
Fair. I don't want to watch TV.
And it's so
because I make TV, I'm like, I don't watch it.
But I think we have those things that remind us of why we started doing those things. They're like, cool, I want to tap into that. I want to do this because it reminds me of something that felt so peaceful at the time. And so for me, it's finding a source of peace that makes me easy.
Yeah. I'm always asking, like, what's the softest decision, or what's going to love me the best? Oh, wow. Right? Like, life is hard. Like, things are going to come at you. Life is going to come at you. Yeah. So what decisions can you make so that your day is softer? If it means I'm going to, wake up a little earlier so that I'm not rushing, fine. If it means I'm going to order my meal instead of cooking it, like, how can you make life a little bit softer? And how can you make a decision that loves you better? It might mean I'm not going out to that thing this week because that's going to stress me out. So I'm going to stay in. But I think we have to start. We are responsible for loving ourselves.
There you go. Yeah. Like being in charge of your own life, not take other people's opinions and then
responsible.
Yes. Let me tell you, she abides by that not going out rule.
I do. I try to get her out. Yeah, they'll message me. I'm like, if I'm not feeling it, baby, I'll stay home.
My goodness.
Laid up.
So I wanted to know, when was the first time that you realized that who you were was like something that was, let's say, transcending the rules of like what we see as normative? Very intense question.
So, sort of like, how do we figure out who we...
Yes, or maybe like the first time you said like, wow, maybe
I'm good at
what
this.
I am is like...
Okay. You mean as like...
difficult for society
to
take.
Oh, interesting.
I think it was probably like my first day of high school.
Yeah, I would say boarding school.
Yeah.
Yeah, high school.
Walking into the environment of teenage boys and them not knowing who they are. Mm-hmm. And then me coming in so brash and confident and being like, oh, hello, girls.
Yeah.
How are you? And getting met with, oh, no, I can't compete what that is, so I can't be a part of it. And then some were receptive to it. And so I think that was probably the first time in my life that I was like, oh, you're not like them. Mm-hmm. That's okay. It's going to be scary, but you're not. I was very much, I have not been an outsider before. And now I feel like I'm on the outside. And so I think maneuvering that through high school was my biggest challenge to date, for sure, of finding myself. But it was probably the first day of high school for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say that because elementary and middle school, I was with the same group of kids from like first grade to 8th grade. And then I'm from New York, and so then going to high school in a little town in Georgia was just such a culture shock, from subways to cows, literally cows roaming. And there was a tension. Like I felt that tension so immediately. And then I was also acting. And so I found my voice doing the plays, and so there was a lot of love there, but then there was also this other side, which was the 9 to 5 or 9 to 3. There was that other tension, and so that's when I think it was like, oh, I'm good at something, because people were telling me that I'm watching people react to this, but also they're also being hard with me. Like what is do they love? Do they hate? Like what's going on? And so that was, I think, the first time I was like, oh, I think I'm different. And then people will tell you you're different, and they're telling it as a bad thing. Yeah. I think the work was to then see it as the gift, the superpower.
The gift, yeah. Because I think that Vincent was saying, like, I think it's very important to feel like we're different.
Yeah.
And we remind other people that they have to ask questions to themselves.
Yes.
They're very uncomfortable. So instead of like asking those questions to themselves, they project every shit they have onto, let's say, queer people. We say a lot here in the podcast, like, I feel like specifically trans people are like the key of the new world that is opening up for us.
Yes.
And also like non-binary, like breaking what is man, what it is to be a woman. How did you find out about this space of being non-binary?
2020, I was advocating for Black folks and queer folks, and I was saying to people, whatever you don't know, be curious and go research it. You don't need to ask your Black friend what their experience is. Fucking Google it. And I was realizing that there were pieces of the LGBTQIA plus community that I didn't know about. So asexuality, not a lot about trans folks. And so I did my own research there, and I started watching videos about non-binary folks, and just innocently, just like trying to like learn about this community. And everything I was watching sounded like me, and like my heart just like cracked open in a way. It was like the first time that like I you're not gonna make me cry, girl. It was like the first time that I felt whole, because I had accepted my Blackness, my gayness, their intersections, but then I didn't realize there was this other piece missing, which was this inability to like be a man and not a woman, and what this space was. And as soon as I said it, I started weeping because I was also afraid that I was going to lose my community, because I had been such a strong gay Black man. And I was afraid that now that I was non-binary, I was going to lose that community. And so I told my husband first, and he responded well. And then I started telling other people, and my people responded well, and I knew it was going to be okay. But it was YouTube.
I think social media is very powerful for this, because it's letting us see other people around the world showing themselves in every way. And also, I think it's so hard to get like your label out to the people, you know, like, so if you have been like fighting a lot to be gay and then you accept yourself as being gay, then okay, now I have to do something else. I have to break my character again in a way of like, now I have to be this non-binary person. What does that mean? People are not going to like me. People are going to be asking questions, more questions. I already answered all of the questions before for being gay.
And now there are more questions and you have questions. Actually, Alok, who you interviewed, right? Gave me the best advice, which was, don't tell anybody right now. Like, let it be for yourself. Let it be for you. Like, you don't have to share everything. Let yourself experience it, learn what it is, and then when you're ready. But like, you don't have. That's the thing. Like, when you come to terms, or not come to terms, when you realize who you are, you don't have to come out. Like, live it, experience it. It's for you first. Get strong in that, and then, because you don't want other people's opinions to like fuck with you. You're fragile. It's a baby.
Also, it's yours.
It's yours.
It's not for anyone else. And I think I had the great, I won't say misfortune, because I talk a lot in interviews and get off track and I go and say things. But I came to you in 2021 after doing my own research and realizing, because my father would always call me two-spirit, and I had no clue what that meant. And it was just the weirdest thing. I was like, I don't know what that means. And if you're cursing me, like, let me know. But I fully realized after doing research and talking to friends, I friend Jordan Block, and I talked to them, and I talked to B, and I talked to some other friends, and I realized, I was like, oh, this is where you fit. This is where you've always fit. And it's who you've always been, and it makes the perfect sense. But then I realized once I said it, I did an interview with Out Magazine, and I came out as non-binary just off the flip, because I had been holding on. I had told all of my people that's all I wanted to know, if I'm being honest. But I also realized that I had a platform. And if I were to go and do music or something like that, questions would be asked. So I wanted to clarify. But I think what I loved the most about that interview is that I solidified, this is for me. I am telling you because I feel as though I want you to know. You don't have to go and do a think piece on it.
No.
This is for me. I had to find more of myself. It is an invitation for you to do the same thing for yourself. We don't have to talk about it. I will give you my pronouns. I will ask that you use them. If you are trying to figure it out, I understand that. I get it. I'm trying to figure it out. I understand it. So
that's beautiful.
It's coming out is for you. It helps others that you want in your life to understand you more fully, but it is not meant to be this big, broad thing that you have to tell the world, because the world doesn't understand things. People look at queer people with fear because it's a mirror. It's an idea that there is more to them than they don't know about. And what a terrifying concept. It's like thinking of space. There's more out there that you don't know that's there, but you are so terrified of looking that you'll just stay where you are because it's comfort. So that's why we scare them. So coming out, it terrifies people. I would say, just like you said, it is for you. You don't have to tell everyone if you don't want to. Just make sure you tell yourself, and then start living.
Yeah. Well, Jordan and I, it's so funny, Jordan and I had dinner, and at the end of dinner, Jordan goes, Vincent's one of us. And I was like, I know she is one of us. And then like 2 weeks later, Vincent was like, I have something to tell you.
Can we talk?
But yes, I think that what we don't talk a lot about, that queer folks, especially trans folks, are a representative of, is freedom is terrifying. People are people like their rules. That's why religion has such a chokehold on the world. Because people like their rules, and we're scared of death. And so everything you realize is about what's going to happen when you die. Like all of my mother's bullshit is like, oh my God, if you die, you're going to go to hell. It's like,
but I'm living.
But I'm living right now.
What do I do?
I'm living right now. And so I think queer folks, and you know, whether it's queer folks or people who are non-monogamous, whatever it is, it's like they're living freely, and that's terrifying to people. And I wish people would just be curious. I always say, like, curiosity, communication, compassion. Those are the tenets that we need to see more of.
Agreed so much. And have you found any opportunities in showing yourself up and coming out as non-binary?
Have I seen what?
Yeah, opportunities in that.
Opportunities
even for yourself, like what you were saying, like I think it's helpful. Of course, like try to work it on yourself first of all, and then when you show other people, you're also making it easy for you, because then you can be yourself.
Yes.
You don't have to pretend. You can ask any questions if you want it. If you don't want, you don't have to answer them. So, but any opportunities, like people going up to you, sharing things about their process with you,
always
that becomes like an opportunity to help other people as well,
always.
right?
I think when you live freely, you inspire people to live freely. I mean, I'm here because other people. Those videos on YouTube, those are people speaking about their non-binariness or their gayness, and that freed me. So I think that whenever we live freely, we inspire others to free themselves. So for sure, I mean, it's so wild being in Madrid and being stopped by people who love Vincent's music or who love Messy Mondays. And so it's like, oh, the work, not the work, but the just existing and being ourselves is allowing other people to know it's okay to be yourself, that you will find your safe space, and that it's possible.
And at the same time, this is a little bit scary, right? Because you are like exploring places that you haven't been before, and then you go like, am I gonna be good at this? Do I know how to do it? Am I gonna get hurt?
Yeah, but there are straight white men who have never directed a movie, and then they get a whole movie, they get a full budget. You know, it's like there's a way. I think that queer folks, Black and brown folks, we shrink ourselves because we're like, oh, well, I can't do that. And there are these straight white men who are like, I'll figure it out. And so it's like, I'm like, oh, take some of that. My manager's always like, what would a straight white man do in this moment? It's like, then do that. Like, go, and not exactly that, but you know what I'm saying? Like the bravery, the like.
Yeah, like own it.
Own it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, if you fail, you fail. It's data. It's not the end of the world. If you get to be yourself fully, then I'm going to be myself fully. That's my right, my given right as a human. I got one life. I'm not going to spend it apologizing for the Black queer person that I am. That makes no fucking sense.
No fucking sense. And also, I think the space is for all of us.
Yes.
The thing is that we have been taught that we really have to be careful about taking spaces. But the space is as ours as any other people, you know? So,
and look at the zeitgeist. The magic of culture is so influenced by queer folks, so influenced by Black and brown queer folks. So we are the special sauce. So why would I ever dim that?
I'm really confident. I'm going to do it anyway. You know, that's just the Aries in me. I have always been, no, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it the way that I want to do it. And that's just that. And it's got me in a lot of trouble. And my manager's always like, hey, calm down.
And she means that.
I mean it. I mean it because if you can see yourself having it, then I can see myself having it.
Absolutely.
And I don't have to explain. And I think that's something that has happened to us as queer folk and as Black and brown people. We always feel the need to explain why we deserve things.
Yes.
And to ask for
I'm not
permission.
giving you a fucking explanation because you didn't ask for one.
Yeah.
You know? No one gave you permission to do anything. You just did it. So I will do the same. And you'll kick rocks and eat dust if you don't like it.
And I would say to people who are trying to figure that out, it's going to be scary at first, but you try it first, you learn from it, and you keep building that confidence.
Get scared. It's fun.
It's terrifying, but like it'll get easier, it'll get more comfortable the more risks you take, and you have your people, you have your community to back you up, whether it's in real life or your digital community. If you don't have your people in real life, because I recognize not everyone has that privilege, you find them online, but you find the people you look up to, and you give that to yourself. You give yourself the ability to take risks over and over.
A really great lesson my dad taught me when I was growing up was when I was riding a bike and learning to do it, because I was really, really bad at it. Getting scared should be fun. And it helped flip my mind because in your head, you're like, I'm gonna crash and it's gonna hurt and I'm gonna bleed and I'm gonna die. And it's a bike and you're going less than a mile per hour. But he was like, when you're about to fall, start laughing or just scream really loud.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, what is that gonna help me with? He goes, you'll get up. Because you'll realize you're not dying. You may have a cut and a bruise, but you'll be fine. The bike is still there. You're still there. Get up and do it again. So getting scared should be fun. I'm learning that for myself over the last couple of years for sure. Being scared is fun. Going on stage in front of thousands of people, terrifying.
Of course.
But I make it fun.
Yeah.
I calm myself down, start laughing. Here we go. Fear is literally a thin veil. That's it. It's just your mind being like, hey, this could hurt. Doesn't say don't do it. It just says, hey, this could hurt. But the rest of your brain is like, you could do amazing things if you get past this could hurt. You know? So fear should be fun.
And bravery feels a lot like fear.
Yeah.
Bravery feels a lot like fear. So don't, like you might feel afraid, but my friend said if you're not shitting your pants a little bit, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. If you're not terrified,
if you're not feeling
crazy.
anything, nothing is really moving inside of you.
Yeah.
So what happens with, if we talk about love, if we talk about relationships, how is that scary for people like try to explore different ways of having a relationship, like non-monogamous relationships, like open couples?
Yeah.
Because you talk a lot about this,
I
Brandon.
do, yeah.
Take it away.
I mean, that is a thing, because it's kind of difficult sometimes to think about yourself, even if you're very open-minded, to give yourself the chance to explore other options.
Yeah. I just wrote a piece so I'm polyamorous. I have a husband, I have a boyfriend, I have other partners, and I wrote a piece about my boyfriend and meeting him. And one of the things I talk about is one of my friends. She's married, and her husband's girlfriend moved in with them during the pandemic.
Wow.
And she said to me, "I thought I was supposed to be jealous, but really, I had somebody who was cleaning the dishes, making meals, and entertaining my husband when I didn't want to." And she's like, "I'm so happy."
Yes.
It's like, oh, right. Like, we're indoctrinated to believe that we're supposed to feel certain things. And so how many of those reactions are actually yours versus
something
not?
you learned.
Yeah. I always say, who would I be if society never got its hands on me?
I love that.
And that's the question that like governs everything. And so, non-monogamy can seem really scary. And I don't think that you should, like, if you're a monogamous, go out and get like 10 partners and like figure it out. Like, you take your baby steps, but figuring out like how much of this jealousy or this baggage is actually mine, and how much of it is because that movie said, well, if she's talking to him, then that's a bad thing, you know? But it's chipping away. It's chipping away at old ideas, and you might discover that you really are monogamous, and that's okay too. But I think giving yourself curiosity is everything.
You believe that we're actually non-monogamous?
I mean, I believe that, yes. I think most people are. That's why I believe most people are probably queer. But
me too.
I also think there are people who are very monogamous and they're happiest that way and they're straight. But I think that as human beings, we're far more expansive than we give ourselves credit for. And we're far more afraid to explore our expansiveness. And so that's all it really is to me, the polyamory. It's just an extension of love. And so are you willing to explore that? And it also looks different ways for different people. I think people think non-monogamy means you're fucking everybody or you're dating. It's like, no, it could just be one or two partners. It could be a lover in that part of the world and your domestic part. Like, it can look how you want it to look. Make your life the way you want it to look.
Yeah, and it's giving yourself the space to give the life that you want, because we have been taught like you are supposed to do things in the right way, and maybe you're not supposed to get everything for yourself.
Sure.
But maybe you are supposed to get everything you need for your life, right?
I just
to
posted
make you happy.
Yes, exactly. I just posted something that said, I'm way more interested in how my life feels than what other people think about it.
Yeah.
Way more interested in how it feels for me. And so I'm doing the things that make me feel free and good than if I'm living my life for if I lived my life specifically for what my mom thought, I'd be married with a wife and several kids and probably miserable and a terrible parent.
Yeah.
I'm living my life for me, so I get to be free and happy and joyful. Because when I'm on my deathbed, I want to look back and say, wow, I did it. I don't want to look back and go, oh, I wish I did. That's a way to avoid that. So let's avoid that.
Yeah, let's avoid that. And I think that queer people and queer artists, of course, we're doing that. We're giving people the chance to think about themselves and give themselves the opportunity to open up. You know, I was now in Europe, we have a lot of queer artists that they have a huge platform in Eurovision. You guys, I guess, you know Eurovision. So the last Eurovision was won by this singer called Nemo Medler. I don't know if I'm saying it right. They won with a song about breaking the binary code. Do you think that in the US are a lot of like queer non-binary artists doing the same thing, breaking the code?
Of course. All over the country. I think it's not publicized enough, but it's happening. It's publicized in queer media, but there are artists in every state, in every part of the country, in every part of the world doing that. And I think that's where the change happens. Yeah. I think it's amazing because I watched that Eurovision performance and they were incredible and they fully deserve to win. Having it be there is otherworldly. That is a platform that that's crossing continents. You know, it's amazing. It's like crossing countries, excuse me. It's amazing. But when it happens in the small spaces, you know, it inspires. It happens in Minnesota or happens in Florida. it needs to happen in Florida, but it's happening everywhere in the country, and there is a movement happening, and I hate to say movement because that scares people, but also like grow up.
Yes,
like
grow up. It's a movement.
Movements happen every day.
We're gonna get you.
You know, it's very much. It's supposed to happen. Change happens. I just watched a really funny video of a guy in a lake in Louisiana, and he's saying, every 100 years there's new people. So if you think you're this important, you're going to be gone, and there will be another batch of people. What you do now for yourself influences them.
Yeah.
So live.
Yeah.
Be alive.
Yeah.
You know.
And let other people do whatever
let other people
they wanted to.
You can either fight against it or you can support. Like let people live their life.
Yeah.
Can we recommend any non-binary artists that you guys like?
Ooh.
Yeah. You said Alok.
Yeah,
Alok is so...
Alok is one of my... I follow...
Love them.
Please follow them.
Yes.
Who can I have?
For singers.
We might need
playlist. Because also I think
whenever SB recommend a gay person, I'm like, I know no gay people.
I've never met a gay person in my life.
Like when straight people say, I have so many gay friends. So many gay friends. Name one. Yeah, specifically I thought it was interesting when you were saying, because now, for example, it's happening in the US, but it's happening everywhere. Like these politicians that are so old. Not blaming anyone that's old, but if you're that old and you want to rule like a country, you should think about everyone, not just yourself, because you're gonna be dead like in maybe a few years from now. So,
but that's about power. It's such a love. It's such a love of power and ego, and that's gonna kill us if we don't, change that. But it's like, it has nothing to do with what is good for people. It has everything to do with wanting to be seen, and the fear of not being seen, and the insecurity, right? Like when I think Donald Trump is probably one of the most insecure people in the world.
Sure.
The more aggressive somebody is, the more insecure they are.
Yeah.
Right? Like the most secure straight men have been able to like hold my hand walking down the street, and it's like, oh yeah, because I'm not threatened by your queerness.
Yes.
I don't care what other people think about this.
Yeah.
It's those people that are like, oh babe, you got some work to do. You know?
Also, Shamir, G Flip, King Princess, Dorian Electra are some artists who are amazing and friends of mine. I think it's that, but it's also they're clinging on to life, to humanity. It's the fear that you're going to die.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with you being great or seen it, because in 100 years or 200 years, you will be remembered as the guy who did the shitty thing for that country. That's your legacy.
Yeah.
So that right now, he's just clinging on to being alive.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, if we're going to go there, it should be said about the other side. There is something happening with both sides where it's like, you've got to move forward and understand that you are not, you're done. You did this.
This is not about you.
It's not about you
everyone,
anymore.
not
and now
just you.
It gives personal now, and that's not what a
Again,
country needs.
Ego, power.
Yeah, and specifically I think about art because there have been in Spain as well, like they have been banning like theater plays, books, some things every now and then, in different places. And it's also happening in the US.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how do you feel about that coming from artists?
They're erasing history. It's happening in Florida as if Black history and queer history have never happened.
Don't say gay. They're putting up the 10 Commandments in public school classrooms.
You're not allowed to say your Muslim prayers in the morning.
Yeah. It's devastating. It's tragic. It hurts everyone. As an artist, all we can do is continue to fight, continue to make the work. I have a Substack, so it's online. So it's like I continue to write and put it out, and the people who can get it. I think that's all we can do is like make our music, write and create, put up our shows, and let people find us, because there are, we're fortunate we live in LA, so. We still have access to those things, but I always think about, I went to school in Rome, Georgia. I think about the kid in Rome, Georgia who doesn't have necessarily that community or what it is. And that's why we just continue to be visible, I think.
And it happens a lot with people that are very visible. For example, like drag queens. Like they cannot be near kids all of a sudden, or they're so worried about them talking to kids.
Well, that has nothing to do with them being drag queens. It's just a ploy.
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction. We don't have anything else to say about you. So the one thing that we have is this joyful person who comes to this place to make music or to bring a community together. Of course, they always use children, but it's insane. Gay people have children.
It's like, and
there are mass
gay
shootings,
people are children as well.
Yes,
we're all children.
Yeah.
I mean, we have been all children, and we are in a way all children.
Yeah.
So it's like you're banning information from them, and then you're telling us that we're indoctrinating them.
But that's what it is.
But it's a distraction. Again, like the critical race theory banning, like it's all a distraction because there are so many things that are like again, mass shootings, the amount of unhoused folks, like people not being able to eat or afford rent, and yet we're focused on drag queens not being in libraries. It's illogical.
Reading books.
It's not. It doesn't make sense.
Not queer books, just books.
Books, yeah.
It doesn't make sense. But they because they know the power is in books. One.
Yeah.
When your uncle Stephen, who is a predator, is sitting in a library, and it's like you have to be realistic.
Yes.
You have to look at the facts that it's about money. It's about information, because if you can scare children into believing that something is bad, they'll believe it for the rest of their lives.
Yes.
It's the reason that most people are the way they are today.
Yeah.
So it's just. It's informing kids and people that if you just give them the chance to be and read and learn for themselves, they'll be fine.
Yeah.
They'll see a whole world. I mean, that's why being in Spain has been incredible because everyone speaks every language. And I'm like, wow, I'm so sheltered.
Mm-hmm.
I just speak English. That's really unacceptable. But like that's
manzanas.
Manzanas. I can say that. But it's like that to me is actually quite unacceptable. But that I think is part of the indoctrination. It's like take things away and then you only know a limited amount of things and then you can only do a certain amount of things. Mm-hmm. Whereas, I'm here and I'm like, oh, you can go to France too and speak. You can go over there. Like, I think it's the information. It's a really, when they put a lock on it, they can really keep us down.
I think it's beautiful to think of the world now as a village, like a very big village of many people. Like we get together, we like mix ourselves with other people, and I think that's beautiful. So thankfully, we have you guys you are doing like amazing things in music, writing, influencing many people. So kind of like you became your own idols and you became idols for other people as well to inspire them. Mm. So I would like to know any story that you had like beautifully like shared with you, like from somebody like was inspired by you, something that happened that changed their lives or
something just happened recently. An artist, I just played London Pride a couple of weeks ago, and an artist there, Janice Robinson, came up to me to kind of pour life into me, which is something that doesn't happen often, but it was so unexpected. And she had gotten words from Tina Turner, who did the same thing for her. And so she did that for me. Wow. And it just kind of blew my mind because she was so adamant about making sure that I understood my place in the world and where I could go and what I could give to the world and how I inspired her and how Tina inspired her and how she inspired Tina and how it's this full circle of continual love and reassurance and a push forward into a life that you should have and want and strive for. And so for me, that experience for me and in London has sat with me this entire trip because it has really built this kind of steadfast wall around my heart of like, you don't have to stop doing this just because someone doesn't see you the way that you think they should. Mm-hmm. Inspiration comes in all shapes and sizes and all forms and colors. Mm-hmm. And so I think for me, it's whenever I get to step on a stage, whenever I get to put a little something of a blip of a song online, I'm doing my job. Mm-hmm. The inspiration is happening because I've been inspired by something else. That's the way it goes.
Yeah. I get the most beautiful messages from around the world, but one that really sticks out to me is I wrote a book called You Gotta Be You, and it's just about how I learned to love myself and the intersections of my identity, and the governing question being, who would I be if society never got its hands on me? And then I got a message from a mother who said that she knew her son, who I think was like 10 or 9, was gay, and that she was reading the book with him every night before he went to bed. Wow. And that it was helping her understand him, and that it was helping him understand himself. And so that, I think, was really, as somebody who has tension with my mother, it's like, well, then that tension is worth it. Like if I can like make it easier for another mom and child to bond and to see each other, then like this has been worth it, for sure.
Ay, Dios mío. Qué bonito. So I think that to end this conversation in a beautiful way, I would invite everyone to share how they feel with their artists that they love, with their like neighbors that they love, with people that they love, and be open and, you know, vocal about it, because we are so used to just hearing bad things from us and from other people that it's also important to give ourselves the chance to like really express the way we love other people, and don't be like, you know, shy about it. You know, like go out and say to everyone that you really love, not to the other ones that you don't. But if you really love someone, tell them.
Share it, babe.
Share, because we need. So
I think they're dying to know.
They want to know.
Yeah.
We
want to know.
They want to know.
We need to know.
Absolutely.
It's
People
part
need to
of
know
the
their
strength
love.
we need, right, to go on.
To love and to be loved. That is all. Like, love is the only responsibility, as James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni so brilliantly said. It's the only responsibility to take.
Okay, so I think we're going to stop here because I think it's a beautiful way to stop. Should we say something to our like LGBTQ people that are listening to this?
Yeah.
Something beautiful you would like to share today?
Get out there and live. It's not too late to be whoever you want to be, and you're not in a place where it can't happen. You can be whoever you want to be, wherever you want to be, and if it's not working out for you, get out of there. Find a way. Be brave. Remember, being brave is scary, but scary is fun.
I think most importantly, you're loved. You may not always feel it, but like, I'll say I love you. We love you. You're magic.
Like you, you know?
Your magic, your power is in being who you are. So don't shrink who you are. People, if it doesn't feel good when you're with people, then they're not the people you're supposed to be with. Be with the people who bring out your light. Anyone that dims your light, I don't care if it's a person, a parent, a job, get away from it. Your light is the most important thing that you have. So surround yourself with the people who bring it out and bring it out of yourself. But if you remember nothing else, you are deeply loved.
Amen.
Amen. So thank you for being here, babe.
Thank you for having it. Cheers.